Welcome to CBC Windsor News at 6. I'm Meg Roberts. Thanks so much for spending part of your evening with us tonight. Residents on the shores of Lake St. Clair are concerned about boater safety. They want to see something done about a pile of rocks submerged in the water. Plus, we chat with NDP leader Jagmeet Singh after the National Pharmacare Bill recently passed its third reading. And a high school auto class is helping rebuild wheels to help make a difference in a local woman's life. A pile of rocks poking out of the water in Lake St. Clair is causing some concern for residents in Lakeshore. They say it's a hazard to people out on the water and want the rocks to be marked or removed. But as the CBC's Dale Mullner tells us, it's not that simple.
These gulls are sitting on some of the rocks that sit about 25 meters offshore in the 400 block of Russell Woods Road in Lakeshore. Joe McHale lives down the street. He has seen the rocks claim numerous watercraft.
Boats get damaged, props get hit, and jet skis get ripped. The best part so far is all we've seen is damage to their boats. But there's going to be a time where you're going to see somebody physically hurt.
Paul Hoddy of Hoddy Marine says people have already been hurt. He's been dealing with the rocks for decades.
We've marked them for other people. We've marked them ourselves. But the liabilities of us marking them, we mark them. We're responsible for them.
Hoddy says someone created the pile several years ago when the water levels were lower. Now McHale says when the water levels get higher in late June and in July, boaters can't see them at all. And that's when problems happen. The Essex Region Conservation Authority says there are some hurdles to overcome before anything can be done.
And, in general, navigation within those waterways falls under the responsibilities of Navigable Waters and Transport Canada. If there's a safety issue with respect to navigation and hazards, those would be the types of people that, we would want to deal with those types of situations.
And he says permission might be needed from Fisheries and Oceans Canada and other authorities because the rocks may be a fish habitat. The fish habitat specialist for the Great Lakes Institute for Environmental Research tells CBC News that they can eliminate the hazard and still maintain the habitat by either lowering the rocks, spreading them out, or replacing them with another habitat. McHale has reached out to the municipality of Lakeshore asking them to do something. Mayor Tracy Bailey has sent CBC a statement saying, "I expect that Council and I, at an upcoming meeting, will discuss the creation of a report about how Lakeshore can work with the relevant agencies, including Transport Canada, to develop solutions to the issue." Dale Mullner, CBC News, Lakeshore.
A new 16-story condo building could be coming to downtown Windsor. The city's Development and Heritage Committee has approved rezoning for an 88-unit structure at Karen Avenue and Chatham Street West.
Speaking on behalf of the developer, I can say that they will be very happy to move forward with the next steps. We still have some additional planning processes to go through. One would be eventual and final approval of council at the next meeting. I would say this is a very good project for all of Windsor, especially the downtown core. It's a pretty high-tech project when you look at the design.
The site of the proposed building is just across the street from another lot on Karen Avenue the city is hoping will also be developed. A construction timeline on the 16-story building has yet to be determined. The developer is Magnificent Homes, based in London. Concept drawings show the first 4 floors will be an indoor parking garage. Higher floors will be devoted to 1-bedroom and 2-bedroom units. French said the company will ensure the building will match the character of the neighborhood, which has heritage designation as Old Town. Some high school students at EJ La Jeunesse were given a tall order. Take a 2011 Jeep Compass near the end of its life and make it drivable. They were able to pull that off, and the car was then gifted to a new owner. It's part of a United Way program called Rebuilding Wheels, Rebuilding Lives. Windsor Morning host Amy Dodge was there.
2, 1.
We started 10 years ago. We're 17 cars donated, 500 students involved, and really everybody has just rallied together to help make a difference. And it really touches us when we get to see somebody whose life has changed and the kids that are involved. It's wonderful.
Yeah, the vehicle itself was an excellent candidate for the program. It came in, it's got 78,000 kilometers on it, and I've seen those vehicles go pretty high mileage, so it was a great candidate. Didn't need a lot of repairs. Tires were good, brakes were good on it, but it did need some repairs on the suspension, tuning up the engine, oil changes, your regular maintenance items.
It was so much fun to work on. It was a lot of work. Some things went smoothly, some things were a struggle. A few bolts we couldn't get off, so we had to grab the torch and melt them off and then pry it off, hit it off with a hammer. But for the most part, it looked so much better than it did.
What has it been like for you to work on this car? I found it to be an amazing experience, being able to learn and to figure out how to replace the parts, how to fix them, and even calling the auto shop itself to really to place the order, figure out how much it is, and just manage all of that. It was really great. My confidence has really built up. Knowing what I know now, I feel a lot more comfortable with working on cars, or if I ever have to help my father with his car, now I can help him, and even if he doesn't know, I might know.
I really can't find the right words to express my gratitude to the students, the teachers, the donors, the partners, the United Ways itself. They've truly impacted lives. It's not been easy. As a single mom immigrant, I came into Canada 5 years plus ago, and having to move around, having to take care of kids, the challenges with the inflation and everything that is happening. But I'm grateful.
What's your plans today? What's the first drive?
Yeah, drive around town, have the fun.
Inflation, housing prices, and higher grocery prices, all of these issues are weighing financially on Canadians, including many right here in Windsor. Our city's most recent unemployment rate was 8.8%, the highest in Ontario. To talk more about all of this, we're joined by federal NDP leader Jagmeet Singh. Thanks for joining us.
My pleasure to be here.
The NDP is behind the Pharmacare Act and a separate bill to lower grocery costs. When will the families who are struggling now see the benefits of those pieces of legislation?
Well, for the Pharmacare bill is passed now, and we're going to get that passed in Senate. And people can expect to see their medication for birth control and for diabetes, medication and devices covered as soon as this fall, depending on how quickly provinces like Ontario move to sign up for the program. But we can move very quickly. It's going to save money for people and lower the costs. When it comes to groceries, we know that people are hurting. It's one of those things that I hear everywhere I go, from Windsor to, I'm in Ottawa right now, to across the country, Atlantic provinces, and everywhere in between here and BC. We know people are hurting and the cost is going up. And they also know they're being ripped off. So what we're proposing, our plan, is to say we're going to force grocery stores to lower the cost of essentials. And if they do not, we will impose a price cap. So they'll have to lower their prices on essentials or not. If not, we will force them. This is something France has actually done recently to great success. We need to be more aggressive because people are being ripped off by these CEOs and are making record profits for the large corporate grocery chains. People need some relief now. Our plan would do that.
There are some pretty big infrastructure projects happening in our community right now. The Gordie Howe International Bridge is nearly connected, and the Stellantis LG battery plant is under construction. What will you be watching closely for here to make sure taxpayers' best interests are protected?
Well, first and foremost, we want to see any project that gets federal money has to ensure that there's jobs being created in our country, in our community. So if we're building a plant, which is important for the automotive industry, particularly growing up in Windsor, I know how important that is. And we want to make sure that we've got all the infrastructure in place to support more jobs for the future. We also need to make sure that we're getting workers hired now. So that's something I'll be paying close attention to. And when it comes to the Gordie Howe Bridge, the same thing. We want to make sure that the benefits flow to the local community, that there's community benefit agreements, that there are jobs created, that Canadians and people in Windsor are getting the jobs.
If your government was in power right now, would you be doing anything differently when it comes to those two big projects?
Yeah, for the Stellantis project, we would ensure that there would be no loopholes or exemptions that are allowing foreign workers to be doing jobs that should be done by Canadians. This is something that's very important to me, that we have public money being spent, and there has to be ironclad guarantees. If we're going to use taxpayer dollars to invest in important projects, there have to be ironclad guarantees that support good jobs, good wages for workers in Canada. That's something I would ensure in any project, but particularly projects that are built in communities that are faced with some high unemployment numbers.
Well, thanks so much for your time. Jagmeet Singh is the leader of the federal NDP. Disability advocates are pushing the province to act after the death of a vulnerable boy who they say was left alone at school. They spoke at the legislature today with a message from his mother. Queen's Park reporter Lorenda Redicop has more.
Happy birthday to you.
Landon Ferris was 16 years old and died May 14th. He had Dravet syndrome, a form of epilepsy that causes seizures, including during his sleep. His mom even slept with him at night. He wasn't to be left alone. Today, disability advocates shared a letter from his mom, Brenda Davis, who said she rushed to the school that day after receiving a text that there was an emergency.
I walked into the classroom to find my son on a stretcher, receiving CPR. His hand hanging to the side, fingers already blue.
His mother's lawyer has said she was told her son had been in a sensory room or quiet room, then found when someone went to check on him. Here's more of the message she shared.
We used to pick flowers together. Now I leave them at his grave. I'm broken. My boy is gone. His laugh is a memory. His light snuffed out too soon. I will forever be haunted.
It's unknown what caused Landon's death. The school board is investigating, so is the coroner's office, assisted by the OPP. Advocates point to long-standing issues with not enough staff for students with special needs.
Parents should be able to send them to school without worrying that they may not come home at the end of the day.
The Minister of Education says they've hired 3,500 more educational assistants. Disability advocates also want province-wide standards for sensory rooms. One of the advocates was part of a government-appointed committee that recommended that more than 2 years ago.
There need to be safeguards having regard to the reasons for placing them there, the duration they'll be placed there, and the oversight that will be taking place there.
There's an expectation that all school boards in Ontario have a protocol. They are expected to follow it.
But different school boards can have different protocols. The minister says if the investigations recommend stronger protocols, the government will follow that advice. He also hopes the investigations will be made public.
Families and staff need to have confidence that when their kids are in schools, they're safe. And so transparency, I think, is really fundamental.
The concerns by those supporting Landon's family is that these investigations can take a long time. They want the family to have answers soon about what really happened. Lorenda Redicop, CBC News, Toronto.
Perhaps it's a sign of things to come. An iconic neon symbol in downtown Windsor has recently received some much-needed repairs. The Cheetah's Adult Entertainment neon sign at the intersection of Pleshier and Chatham has glowed bright since the 1990s, but in recent years has fallen into a state of disrepair. The strip club was determined to get the sign functioning again, a move they hope will be a small part of downtown's revitalization movement.
We're trying to bring back life to Chatham Street and to downtown Windsor. We really appreciate the aggressive, positive direction of making a change and rejuvenating downtown from the city. We as business owners want to do our part in making sure when people come to downtown, they look at things which please their eyes as well. And specifically the Cheetah sign, it has been here since 1999, and we wanted to, bring it back to life. We had a few tubes which were out, some ballast, some transformers. It was quite a bit of work. As of the last Friday, the sign was up, all the neon was working, even the spotlight, which focuses on the Detroit skyline, the painting, has been up. The next step is to paint the building from outside and paint the sign, touch it up and make it look even better. These neon signs, it takes 4 times as much energy and power to run them. It costs the business more to keep it operational, but it was just a piece of downtown Windsor history that we had to keep alive. It's just the sheer amount of memories people have, the city has, and downtown Windsor has. With the cheetah sign, we had to rejuvenate it. We had to keep it alive.
Well, if you got a chance to get outside today, you know it was a scorcher. We have your full weather forecast coming up after the break. With the temperature, it felt like a regular summer day out there. Time now for a look at the weather forecast. Victor Paulo joins us now.
Meg, it was a hot one in Windsor today. Temperatures around 30 degrees, and by the time we had all of that humidex in there, it was closer to around 34, 35. But the good news is the time we get later on in towards tomorrow, we're going to see a trend of temperatures slowly starting to fall. But when it comes to overnight tonight, it is going to be a hot, hazy, and humid one. It's going to be a little bit warmer than we've liked, probably one of our warmest nights in the Windsor area in a long time. But we do have thunderstorm passing by for Wednesday, and the majority of Wednesday is going to be scattered showers of big rain pockets passing and a little bit of periods of calm. But of course, there'll also be thunder showers passing. So you do know what we say. If you hear that thunder roar, you want to head indoors. And we also are expecting temperatures to return back to seasonal. What do I mean by seasonal temperatures? Well, we do know the average high is 23.9 and the average low is 12.9. So we see days like today where the high was 30 and the low was 19. It is very safe to say that we are above seasonal. But if you do see numbers which are lower than 23.3 for your daytime high and closer to 12.9, if not lower, that brings us to seasonal, if not a little bit below, which I know a lot of people are hoping for that change, because we're going to have nights like tonight where it's going to be 19 degrees. We're going to be 19 in Leamington, 18 in Chatham-Kent, 18 in Sarnia as well. It's going to be hot all over, but not as hot as the capital city, Ottawa, 32 degrees. It's going to be 26 in Windsor tomorrow. What's going on over there in Ottawa? Why is it so warm? But we're expecting temperatures all across the region to eventually start to fall once that rain on Wednesday and Thursday pass. Now, the majority of Ontario, well, southeastern Ontario, is under a high pressure system, which is causing a lot of that heat, and it's also bringing us a lot of those clear skies overnight. But then we're expecting a pretty big low pressure system to work its way in, and by the time it does, we'll see more rain happening, more cloud cover, and as well a decrease in the humidity and the temperatures as well. Now, taking a look at the long-range forecast for when exactly that rain will be passing by, well, we can see that that rain will be starting in the morning, and we talked about around your commute home, those thunder showers will be passing by. So you want to make sure if you do hear that thunder roar, you do head indoors. Now, a quick look at what else we're going to be expecting. About 20 to 30 millimeters of rain we're expecting to fall by the time you arrive to Thursday, but we're expecting temperatures to eventually drop down from seasonal to 21 degrees on Sunday. Hope you all have yourselves a beautiful night. Over to you, Meg.
Thanks so much for that, Victor. It was a bring your kid to work day that one U.S. congressman will never forget. That's coming up after the break. A new report suggests some MPs have conspired with foreign governments and shared sensitive information with them. Deputy Prime Minister Chrystia Freeland says the finding is concerning, but trusts that law enforcement will do its job.
And I do really want to emphasize it needs to be law enforcement that takes the steps and takes the actions. The actual enforcement actions can't be politicized.
A committee of MPs and senators released the report yesterday after reviewing thousands of intelligence documents. It says some unnamed politicians began to assist foreign actors soon after they were elected. National security expert Wesley Wark said that one of the MP's actions amounted to treason. The report also criticizes the government's response to foreign interference. The Prime Minister called for the report last year after media reports on interference activities by China and India. A First Nation in Northern Ontario is suing the federal and provincial governments over mercury contamination in a river flowing through its territory. Grassy Narrows First Nation says the governments did not meet their obligations to ensure community members could practice their right to fish safely.
The people of Grassy Narrows have suffered enough. The future children, the grandchildren that are coming behind us when I'm long gone, we want a good future for them.
The lawsuit claims the government's allowed the river to be contaminated with failed to address the problem while authorizing harmful industrial activities. Community leaders say the matter would have been handled differently if another segment of the population had been affected. The lawsuit is seeking several measures, including an order that the governments protect the river and Grassy Narrows territory. The lawsuit also calls for the prohibition of industrial land use on or near the territory that would infringe on treaty rights. Canada's Auditor General released a new report today slamming the federal government for disregarding its own procurement rules. It found Ottawa awarded more than $200 million worth of contracts to a single firm without much, if any, competition. Olivia Stefanovic reports.
At least one contract.
Canada's Auditor General sounding the alarm over $200 million worth of federal contracts given to a single consulting firm, McKinsey & Company.
Federal contracting and procurement policies exist to ensure fairness and transparency and value for Canadians. But they only work if they are followed.
Karen Hogan found those rules routinely broken in 97 contracts awarded to the New York-based global management firm.
We also found that each organization's own practices often did not demonstrate value for money.
The contracts were handed out between 2011 and 2023 for a wide range of issues, including IT support, scientific research, even health and welfare services. Hogan's audit shows most of the contracts were not awarded through a competitive process, and 6 appear to have been designed to favor McKinsey specifically.
Will the Prime Minister commit here and now no more money for McKinsey?
The opposition is seizing on the Auditor General's scathing findings.
Why do these Liberals show such affection for McKinsey but such disdain for Canadian taxpayers?
When will they start respecting our public service and stop forking over money to rich consultants?
Will the Prime Minister finally ban McKinsey from government contracting?
This isn't the first time the government has come under fire for outsourcing.
Speed to procure.
Hogan recently scolded the government for the controversial ArriveCan app, concluding that its final cost impossible to determine due to poor financial record keeping.
We're committed to protecting the integrity of procurement and expect public servants and all departments to operate at the highest standard and prioritize value for money for Canadians.
So why didn't that happen with McKinsey? Well, the Auditor General says procurement policies may be too onerous as they are. So there's no need for more rules. She says the public service just needs to follow them. Olivia Stefanovic, CBC News, Ottawa.
It was a Bring Your Kid to Work Day that one U.S. congressman will never forget, and neither will anyone else on Capitol Hill.
Justice system to engage in a politically driven prosecution and now conviction.
Republican John Rose was first to speak on the House floor yesterday, but it was his 6-year-old son who stole the show. While father gave a 5-minute speech about Trump's criminal conviction, the little guy sat behind him, squirming in his seat while making funny gestures and faces. Afterwards, Rose went online to say that this is what he gets for telling his son to smile at the camera for his little brother. Well, that's it for CBC Windsor News. Don't forget, for news anytime, you can go to our website at cbc.ca/Windsor. You can also download the CBC News app for stories that matter most to you. And don't forget to watch The National tonight at 9 on CBC News Network, 10 p.m. on the CBC News app, CBC TV, and streaming on CBC Gem and CBC Explore. Thanks so much for tuning in. Looking forward to seeing you back here tomorrow night.